Picture this. It's the final lap of the 2026 Daytona 500, the most prestigious race in all of NASCAR. The white flag drops. Carson Hocevar is leading, and then he's gone. Spun into the wall after contact from Erik Jones coming out of the tri-oval. No caution thrown. The field keeps charging. Chase Elliott surges to the front with a push from Zane Smith, and for one split second, it looks like Elliott is about to steal the biggest win of the year. And then he's gone too. Cars folding into each other like dominoes. Joey Logano crossing the finish line backwards. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. scraping the outside wall. Brad Keselowski crawling home fifth with his nose completely demolished. And Tyler Reddick, the man who crossed the line first, didn't even raise his fist. He got on the radio and asked his crew chief if he'd actually won. That's not just chaos. That's a sport asking itself a very uncomfortable question, and the answer might change the direction of NASCAR as we know it. The chaos on that final lap didn't come out of nowhere. The stage had been set throughout the entire race. All 200 laps at Daytona International Speedway, drivers weren't racing flat out. They were managing fuel, sitting half-throttle, riding in tight packs, glued bumper to bumper for miles at a time. The NextGen car has made superspeedway racing almost mathematically equal drag, equal horsepower, equal downforce. The cars are so aerodynamically planted that drivers barely have to lift in the corners, which means the field never separates, and the race never truly opens up. 3 wide, 4 wide, inches apart, for lap after lap after lap. And when everything is that equal for that long, the race doesn't get decided by driving talent, it gets decided by who survives the final lap's explosion of chaos. Hocevar led to the white flag with momentum and position, but he was turned going through the tri-oval and his race ended against the wall. No caution. NASCAR let it run. Chase Elliott inherited the lead with Zane Smith pushing him down the backstretch, and for a moment that felt electric, it looked like Elliott was finally going to add a Daytona 500 to his resume. Then Tyler Reddick, pushed by his 2311 Racing teammate Riley Herbst, dove to Elliott's left exiting turn 4 and cleared him in the final stretch. Behind them, Herbst threw a block on Keselowski, who had an enormous run going on the outside. Instead of slowing Keselowski, the contact ignited a chain reaction that sent cars pinballing everywhere. Logano crossed the stripe backwards. Stenhouse finished second while scraping the outside wall. Keselowski limped home fifth. Reddick crossed clean, the 25th different leader in a race that set a record for lead changes. And here's the thing that stuck with me the most, Reddick didn't celebrate. He got on the radio and asked his team if the caution had come out before he hit the stripe. He was genuinely unsure if his win was going to get taken away. When the biggest moment of your career arrives and your first instinct is to ask, did I actually win? That tells you everything about how confusing and chaotic that finish truly was. Reddick confirmed it himself in victory lane, just speechless. I didn't know if I'd ever win this race. It's surreal, honestly. Before the debate over the NextGen car and the block and the controversy takes over entirely, it's worth slowing down and understanding exactly who Tyler Reddick is and what this win meant beyond the trophy. Reddick grew up in California, and by his own account, never missed a Daytona 500 broadcast as a kid. He sat with his family every Sunday watching this race, dreaming of one day simply being on that track. When he tested an ARCA car at Daytona for the first time, he described it as surreal, just being in that place he'd watched on television his entire childhood. Fast forward to 2026, and Reddick is a NASCAR Cup Series driver for 2311 Racing, the team co-owned by NBA Hall of Famer Michael Jordan and 3-time Daytona 500 winner Denny Hamlin. It's not a team where showing up is enough. Jordan's expectations, as anyone who knows anything about Michael Jordan can tell you, are championship level at minimum. When you're a Cup driver and you get to this level and drive for Michael Jordan, it's expected you win every single year, Reddick said after the race. And 2025 was a year where those expectations went unmet. No wins. A full season of drought. A team that, by Reddick's own words, had to look hard in the mirror and have difficult conversations. On top of the professional pressure, 2025 brought something far more serious to Reddick's personal life. His youngest son, Rookie, was diagnosed with a kidney tumor and underwent surgery last October. Reddick said the only other time he had felt emotions anywhere close to what he experienced winning the Daytona 500 was when he won the pole at the Charlotte Roval, while his son was still in the hospital. Think about what that means. While fans argued online about blocks and strategy and NASCAR politics, this man was carrying the weight of a sick child, a winless season, the pressure of an ownership group with championship ambitions, and the sacrifice of parents and grandparents who invested everything into his dream. And on the morning of the 2026 Daytona 500, his son looked up at him and asked, "Are you finally going to win this race?" That's not a trivia question. That's legacy. That's 3 generations of sacrifice condensed into one sentence from a child who just wanted his dad to win. Reddick delivered. He became the 44th different winner in Daytona 500 history, and the first for both 23XI Racing and Toyota in the event since Denny Hamlin's back-to-back victories in 2019 and 2020. Jordan, whose 63rd birthday was just 2 days after the race, captured it perfectly. "I can't even believe it. It was so gratifying. I don't even know what to say. It feels like I won a championship, but until I get my ring, I won't even know." Now, the win is one story. What happened inside the garage after the race is a completely different one, and it's where the real controversy begins. Chase Elliott was not in a mood to sugarcoat anything. He had led the Daytona 500 off turn 4 on the final lap. He was the race leader coming to the checkered flag. And he didn't win. His response said everything: "We were leading the Daytona 500 off turn 4 coming to the checkered flag and didn't win. So you tell me." There's no rage in those words. There's something worse: disbelief. The quiet devastation of a driver who did everything right and still watched the race slip away in the final 500 yards. Brad Keselowski was not quiet. He was furious. Keselowski, who raced at Daytona while still recovering from a broken right femur, had the run of his life building on the outside when Herbst's block ended it violently. He called the move one of the dumbest things he had ever seen in his career and made no effort to walk it back. Tore up the 9, Elliott, tore up the 22, Logano, a bunch of cars that didn't deserve to be wrecked, so that was a big bummer and really stupid. Keselowski believed he had the momentum to challenge for the win. Instead, he limped across the line in 5th with a demolished front end. Riley Herbst, for his part, defended the move simply and directly. He chose his lane, he got pushed, and he was trying to win the race. That's Daytona. That's what you do. And remarkably, Reddick himself backed his teammate. "My teammate Riley Herbst gave me a lot of pushes there and then tried to win the race for himself, as he should at the end there." Just incredible how it all played out. Just true Daytona madness. So who was right? Keselowski for calling it reckless? Herbst for defending a racing move? Reddick for crediting the teammate who helped deliver his win? The honest answer is that there's no clean verdict, because the situation that forced everyone into that corner in the first place is the real issue here, and it goes far deeper than one block on one final lap. The next-gen car debate has been simmering for 2 years. After the 2026 Daytona 500, it boiled over. The problem is structural. The current package creates near-perfect parity at superspeedways. Every car has the same drag profile, the same horsepower ceiling, the same downforce characteristics. The result is a field that cannot separate. Nobody lifts in the corners because the car doesn't demand it. And when nobody lifts, nobody creates gaps, and the entire 40-car field stays locked in a massive pack for nearly the entire race. In that environment, winning doesn't come from outdriving the field. It comes from fuel strategy, from riding in the right pack at the right time, and ultimately from surviving the last lap chaos that has become, at this point, an annual tradition at Daytona. Since 2018, every single Daytona 500 has ended with either a caution, a crash on the final lap, or a green-white checkered overtime finish. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. Denny Hamlin, who co-owns 23XI Racing, won the race as a team owner, and is a 3-time Daytona 500 champion as a driver, stated plainly after the race that NASCAR may need to increase speeds at superspeedways and make handling matter again. His proposed fix: reduce downforce, strip away spoiler, and slow cars in the corners enough that drivers are actually forced to lift. More lifting means cars separate naturally. More separation means individual driving skill factors into the outcome instead of pack timing and teammate strategy. Hamlin even floated the idea of bringing the Clash back to Daytona as a testing ground for a package that eliminates fuel saving entirely, a race where drivers simply put their foot down and drive. Zane Smith put the current reality in 3 words: the help wasn't there. When the push from a teammate disappears at Daytona, so does your chance to win. Full stop. When the help isn't there, you go nowhere. When it is there, you might wreck everyone trying to use it. That's a problem. And when the biggest race of the year ends with cars going backwards across the finish line and the winner unsure if he's actually the winner, that's not just Daytona being Daytona. That's a warning. NASCAR now faces a decision it cannot keep putting off. Option 1 is to accept pack racing as the permanent identity of superspeedway events, the fuel-saving chess matches, the last-lap explosions, the chaos that keeps fans glued to their screens even as drivers grow more and more frustrated with outcomes they cannot control. The drama is real and undeniable. Option 2 is to change the car mid-cycle, accept the risk of the unknown, and try to restore individual driving skill as the primary deciding factor at Daytona and Talladega. Neither path is clean. NASCAR has not historically shown an appetite for bold mid-cycle package changes, and the political complexity of altering regulations that teams have spent millions building around makes any overhaul an enormous undertaking. But consider this, the garage was already openly divided after race 1 of the 2026 season. Drivers called moves stupid in post-race press conferences. A championship-level team owner publicly proposed significant rule changes. The Daytona 500 winner didn't know he had won. If the NextGen package continues to produce these outcomes at every superspeedway on the schedule, Daytona in February, Talladega twice, Atlanta in its current configuration, the conversation will only grow louder, more pointed, and harder for NASCAR's leadership to deflect. The 2026 season is one race old, and the sport is already at a crossroads that feels bigger than one controversial finish. What happens next, whether NASCAR acts on the growing chorus of voices inside the garage or holds the current package steady, will define the character of this season and potentially reshape what superspeedway racing looks like for years to come. That's where this stands right now, and honestly, this is the conversation every real NASCAR fan needs to be having. Was that Daytona 500 finish the greatest chaos the sport has ever produced, or was it a symptom of a car package that has quietly been draining individual skill from superspeedway racing for 3 years? Was Herbst's block a legitimate racing move or a reckless decision that robbed multiple drivers of a fair shot? And is Tyler Reddick's win the beginning of a dominant 2026 season for 23XI Racing, or just one extraordinary moment in a race defined by survival? Drop your take in the comments. This debate is far from settled, and every perspective matters. If this kind of straight facts, no filler NASCAR breakdown is what you've been looking for, hit that like button right now and subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report. We're a new channel building something real for fans who actually follow this sport every single week, and if the 2026 season keeps delivering moments like this, you're going to want to be here for every one of them.